seriously, why do we even bother having elections? No, really, at this point, what's the point of having elections? Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, I don't know. Seriously, after a while, I don't know what else there is to say. So, as you know, one of the central pillars of Trump's America First agenda, in fact, it was one of the key reasons he was elected in November, was to restore American manufacturing, was to bring jobs and investment and our industrial base and our supply chains back to the United States of America. And so Trump campaigned repeatedly on a tariff. He kept saying over and over again, I used tariffs in my first term, especially against China, to great effect. I'm going to use tariffs again in my second term. We have to end these disgusting trade imbalances, these huge, massive trade deficits that are bleeding our country dry. And we have to bring jobs and manufacturing here back to America. And the American public gave him a resounding mandate. No. This time, another lower court has now struck down all of Trump's sweeping tariffs, his so-called Liberation Day tariffs. Now a court has come out. It's a 3-judge panel. The Court of International Trade, which is based in New York, ruled yesterday, 3-0, all 3 of the judges, that President Trump exceeded his authority to impose these sweeping tariffs by using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977. So just so that everybody knows, it's to get the lingo, the legal lingo out of the way, the jargon out of the way, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, EEP, or I guess whatever, EPA as it's pronounced, as it's commonly known, IEEPA, is a 1977 law which gives the president emergency powers in order, if he believes in the national interest, in the national security, if there's something going on that's a prevailing or preeminent or imminent threat to the United States, that he could then enact tariffs. Well, Trump has used EPA, IEEPA, this International Emergency Economic Powers Act, to underpin the tariffs that he imposed on Liberation Day. 25% on Canada and Mexico. Why? Because of the massive flow of fentanyl coming in from both the southern and northern border, which is killing nearly 100,000 Americans a year. If that's not an emergency, I don't know what is. The millions and millions of illegal aliens that were coming in under Joe Biden, mostly from the southern border, but also a little bit from the northern border. And many of them were criminals, gangbangers, murderers, child molesters. If that's not an emergency, I don't know. China, his huge 30% tariff on China. Why? Because China has been ripping us off, stealing our intellectual property, stealing our research and development, literally robbing us blind and dumping products into this country that has decimated entire industries. If that's not an emergency, I don't know what is. Now, I could go on. His reciprocal tariffs now have been blocked. His 10% tariff that he imposed for every country around the world has now been blocked. Everything now has been blocked. And according now to these judges, they said that he's exceeded his authority. They claim that EPA, IEEPA, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, does not give him this kind of wide latitude and discretion, according to them. And so they say, no, we are setting aside all of his tariffs. Now, let me just make a point right out of the gate. Even if this 3-judge panel disagrees with Trump's tariffs, the basis for his tariffs, the invocation of this Emergency Powers Act of 1977, it is not for them to cripple Trump's ability to negotiate trade deals with other countries. It is for Congress to step in. If the judges feel that President Trump has exceeded his presidential authority on tariffs, just for the sake of argument, it's not up to 3 judges to decide what Trump can do or can't do. It's up to Congress to step in and say, no, we've delegated too much power in this case to the president, and we want to take some of that power back. But it is not the role of these rogue, out-of-control judges. And so here we go again. Now the judiciary is completely interfering and meddling in the internal affairs of the executive and legislative branch. This is not just judicial overreach, it's classic judicial tyranny. And moreover, to get to the heart of the issue, look at what they're doing now to Trump. Look, I mean, to me, this is unbelievable. This is becoming now a national crisis. You're now cutting him off at the knees. You are denying him the authority that he needs, literally in the midst of trade deals and negotiations with the Chinese, with the entire European Union, with India, with China, with countries all over the world, high stakes trade negotiations. Now, how is the president supposed to negotiate? Say the European Union now, they're already engaging in serious talks. I mean, we're talking about trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of investment, of jobs, of deals. And suddenly now they're going to come in and they're going to say, well, you guys don't have the authority to negotiate. According now to your own judges, they've now said you can't negotiate. So until a judge says otherwise, you have no say. You have no clout. You cannot speak for your country. So they've just effectively, or at least they're trying to effectively neuter President Trump and his ability to impose tariffs and protect American jobs, protect American industry, protect American manufacturing. Now, the president has come out right away blasting this decision. I don't blame him. This is beyond outrageous, saying that they will appeal and they're going to take this all the way to the Supreme Court. But the larger point that I want to stress is this. It's now getting ridiculous. So let me see now. This, up to this point now, we're about 120 some days into Trump's presidency. So this is what the judiciary, this is what these rogue judges are now telling us. They get to run foreign policy, not Trump. They get to run trade policy, not Trump. They get to decide which federal agencies get cut, not Trump. They decide which federal government employees can be hired and which ones can be fired, not Trump. They get to decide if unions, public sector unions, especially in the federal government, if they can be fired and not Trump. So what they're really saying is that the president has no power. That now all of a sudden, under the Trump second term, we now have a judicial branch that is essentially claiming it is the executive branch. These judges now are all little presidents. They're all commanders in chief. All 700 of them. And they'll decide who gets deported and who doesn't get deported. And they'll decide how many illegals are allowed to come in or not allowed to come in. As Rubio said, they're now going to be conducting negotiations with other countries. They're going to determine our foreign policy. Now they're going to determine our tariffs. So now it's no longer in the hands of our own commander-in-chief and the executive branch. No. So, according now to these three judges, they say having these massive, long-standing, huge trade deficits doesn't constitute for them a national emergency. Fentanyl pouring into our country, not a national emergency. Illegal aliens coming, at least they did until Trump sealed the border, that's not a national emergency. Transferring trillions of dollars of our industrial base, of our manufacturing, of our R&D, our research and development, of our jobs to countries around the world, especially China, that's not a national emergency. So essentially what they're telling Trump is, you can't be president of the United States. You're not running this country. We're running this country. So what was the point of the elections? Why, seriously, why bother even holding elections if judges are going to run this country? 619 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, it's a bit of a bizarre opening for the Kuhner Report today. We've got the text line is going, actually I'm going to read texts and messages. The text line is going crazy. My inbox is filling up with emails. I've got messages pouring in on Messenger, but for some reason I've got very few calls. This usually when it's hot, if it's hot on the text line and hot on email and hot, then the lines are also red hot. So this is so I don't know what's going on, but anyway, if you want to call, believe me, you got a couple lines open now. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, before I get to the actual issue of the tariffs that are now being blocked by three no-name judges from a lower court that no one's ever heard of. To me, the issue is much bigger even than tariffs. We are now, and I think this is why Trump needs to address the country. This can't go on much longer like this. He's gonna have to address the country. And I don't mean talking to the media, talking to the press, going on Truth Social. He needs an address from the Oval Office. We are now slowly sliding toward a political, constitutional, really legal crisis. I've never seen this before. All of these judges in these obscure jurisdictions issuing these nationwide injunctions, blocking and stopping every part of Trump's agenda. Everything is being blocked. Everything is being challenged. Everything is being obstructed. Everything. And so the president now is going to have to ask the country and say, look, ultimately I need the Supreme Court to weigh in now. Not next week, not 2 weeks, not 3 weeks, but now. Literally now. I want the country, I need the Supreme Court to weigh in, and I need the American people to weigh in. Do elections have consequences? Do elections have actually any meaning? Is there such a thing as a political electoral mandate? That's the question. Because according now to what the Democrats and the deep state are doing, is they're saying, basically, here's the middle finger. You can vote for Trump. You can vote for his policies. We're not going to let you enact his agenda and his policies and his ideas. And it doesn't matter how many times he campaigned on them. So you, the voters, don't matter. You're being suppressed. The will of the people is being actively violated and denied. That's clearly now the issue. I think there's no question. Now, as for tariffs, and look, And George Washington established a tariff. John Adams established a tariff. Throughout the 1820s, all the way through much of the 19th century, American presidents had tariffs. You look at Abraham Lincoln, he believed in tariffs. McKinley, one of President Trump's favorite presidents, imposed a big tariff. This was in 1896 after he won the election. Theodore Roosevelt implemented tariffs. Calvin Coolidge implemented tariffs. Hoover implemented tariffs. FDR implemented tariffs. Truman implemented tariffs. Eisenhower implemented tariffs. Ronald Reagan implemented tariffs. Trump in his first term implemented tariffs. So this idea that a president cannot implement massive sweeping tariffs it's a lie. It's a monstrous lie. And honestly, let me tell you, if you know anything about American history, tariffs are as American as mom and apple pie. Let me repeat that. Tariffs are as American as mom and apple pie. So if from George Washington all the way to Theodore Roosevelt, all the way to Calvin Coolidge, all the way to Dwight Eisenhower, all the way to Ronald Reagan, all the way to Trump just about 6-7 years ago. Presidents impose tariffs. That's what they do. And tariffs work. Historically, they work. It's why we became an economic, manufacturing, industrial superpower. It's free trade that's the aberration. It's free trade that has gutted this country economically and sent our supply chains now, and we've outsourced it to every other country in the world. And so what you're seeing now is clearly this is a judicial coup d'etat. Now, if the president can't impose tariffs, if the president can't deport MS-13 gangbangers, illegal aliens who are MS-13 gangbangers and Tren de Aragua, literally murderers and rapists and child molesters and drug traffickers, if the president can't fire people in federal agencies, I'm just going down everything they're blocking him on. If the president can't even kick people off a freaking federal national relations labor board because the judges keep blocking him. So if he can't even fire executive branch employees, well, what the hell can the guy do? So according to judges now, he can't cut foreign aid. He can't deport. He can't conduct foreign policy. He can't impose tariffs. So what they're doing is they're taking away Article 2, which is the key section in the Constitution that gives the president his executive branch presidential power. What they're doing now is they're just gutting the power of the presidency. Now, Trump's got to tell him, blank off. He's got to address the country and say, either you elected me or you didn't elect me. And what the deep state, what the Democrats, and what these rogue, out-of-control judges are trying to say is, you didn't elect me. They're trying to take away the mandate that you gave me. I want to implement everything that you elected me on, that you voted for. They're just blocking me now. It's a blockade, a political blockade. 617-266-6868 is the number. Agree, disagree, all of your calls next. 6:33 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, well, boy, that changed in about 2 minutes. Lines are loaded. Okay, I'm going to go right to the phone lines, I promise. But why is this 3-judge panel blocking Trump now on all of his tariffs? Why? Well, here, let me just play the cut. As you know, where the Trump administration is in the midst of very sensitive, very protracted, very at times contentious negotiations. They're really starting to hammer out some deals on trade, on tariffs. And it's with the European Union, it's with India, it's with Canada, it's with China. They concluded a deal, as you know, with the United Kingdom. This ruling now makes that deal null and void. It nullifies the deal, the free trade deal we have with, the trade deal that we have with the United Kingdom. So it's, now they're just upending everything Trump is accomplishing or in the process of accomplishing. So why? Why are they trying to block him? Well, here it is. Because the tariffs are working. And God forbid Trump should be successful. Roll cut 4. This is Trump in the Oval Office talking to reporters. Roll cut 4, Mike.
We've never had a boom like we're having now. You're going to see it. There's never been anything like it. So we're up to about $14 trillion in investments. There's never been anything even close. You look at Biden, this guy, they had people leaving as opposed to investing. And they're doing it because of November 5th, and they're doing it because of the tariffs. The tariffs have been tremendous.
So now this was before the ruling. He had no idea about the ruling. It hadn't come out yet. But what he's saying is, people are saying, hey, look, we don't want to get frozen out of the American market. So we're going to invest. And that's why he bagged, trillions of dollars from the Saudis, from Qatar, from India now says they're going to make a major investment. He had the EU for a lot of money as well until this ruling. So now we're going to see what's going to happen. You've got major Canadian car companies that are going to relocate from Canada and say, no, it's not worth it. We don't want to deal with a 25% tariff. We're not going to be able to sell our cars in the American market. So they're going to relocate their car companies into the United States. Long story short, $14 trillion and counting is just pouring into the United States. It's a golden age. It's going to take a few months to build the plants and the factories and, but you can tell by the end of this year, this economy is going to boom. Now, not so much because everything now has been thrown up in the air. I want to read 2 very quick texts and messages, and then I want to go right back to the phone lines. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is from William on Messenger, and I think William really hit the nail on the head. Jeff, I'm wondering, what is the purpose of voting for a president if these lower courts seem to know how to run the country? With multiple exclamation points, sarcastically, obviously. It is unbelievable, and it's obvious what their plan is. Block Trump at all cost. Bingo. Bingo. This is from Dave, our Western PA constitutionalist correspondent. Jeff, these courts can go to hell. We, the people, gave the power to President Donald Trump by electing him. And Jeff, this is all being done by the far left deep state who got their asses handed to them in last year's election. Jeff, these courts and judges are political opportunists. Dave, I couldn't have said it better myself. So now you have a 3-judge panel, this so-called Court of International Trade, I never heard of it, based in New York. And usually they deal with rinky-dink trade cases or arbitration. That's what this is. Now, nationwide injunction blocking all of Trump's tariffs. All of them. Trump now is going to appeal, and we'll see what happens. But as things stand right now, Liberation Day tariffs are off. Trump now has been told he cannot impose tariffs. None whatsoever. The judges decide whether we have tariffs or don't have tariffs. John in Dunstable, you're going to kick us off, John. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, John.
Now, Jeff, this has to do with money and corruption. That's what this is all about, and the globalists that are trying to take over the United States of America. Jeff, I was hauling my horses down from New Hampshire on Monday. There was one veteran that had signs up on the overpasses. At least 4 or 5 other overpasses, Jeff, there was Democrats with the big, huge resist signs. What are we doing, Jeff, as you know, mega Republicans? We're doing nothing, Jeff. And look at the judges that had President Trump in court in New York. Worms. That's what they were. And I hate to insult worms. What was done to them, Jeff? Nothing. Nothing was done with all their corrupt rulings and wanting to place the man in prison for nothing. I'm telling you right now, Jeff, if the American people, the damage that's happened to this country is so serious and bad. If the American people don't stand with that man, we're doomed, Jeff. This country is going to be lost. We could, you know, all the people can send the text messages and whatever that other stuff is they're doing. We have to get out and we have to show our strength. This country is going down, Jeff. This is serious, Jeff. This is getting really bad. And if nothing's done about it, it's over.
Well, you know, John, just to show you how coordinated all this is, because you're completely right. You know, you mentioned how they tried the lawfare and how they tried to put him in jail and how they tried to destroy him. Well, one of the key plaintiffs, you know, because this went to this 3-judge panel. So, the state of Oregon and the state of New York were one of the lead plaintiffs that sued Trump over his tariffs. It was Letitia James. In fact, she issued a statement. She was crowing yesterday, doing a victory lap, saying that Trump has no authority, Trump is a dictator, he exceeded his tariffs now is a dictatorship, that he exceeded his authority, and that this is a victory for the rule of law, and that they're going to continue to press this so that Trump is never able to, they're calling it these tariffs a tax hike, that he can never impose a tax hike again. So these are it's the blue states that sued him. I mean, there were a few businesses as well. There was a small winemaker who was part of the lawsuit. But for the most part, it was these big, powerful blue states and led by Letitia James. Now, look, if you're a dictator for imposing tariffs, then George Washington was a dictator. I just want you to know that. John Adams was a dictator. Andrew Jackson was a dictator. All the presidents between the 1830s, the 1840s, the 1850s, they're all dictators. Abraham Lincoln, dictator. William McKinley, dictator. Theodore Roosevelt, dictator. Calvin Coolidge, dictator. Well, what do you want? FDR, seriously, Eisenhower, dictator. Reagan, dictator. It's dictatorship after dictatorship after dictatorship. I mean, this is so stupid. And this is economic treason. They want us to continue to sell out our jobs, our manufacturing, our supply chains, really our economy, the lifeblood of our economy, to China and other countries who've been taking advantage of us. And they're saying the president can't do anything about it? 649 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare, baby. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, a couple lines are open if you want to jump on. Look, I don't want to make this show boring. I really don't. I don't want to start citing this statute and that statute and this law and this precedent and, you know, before you know it, it's like a law school seminar. But just so that you know, because this texter is 1,000% correct. And you can text us, by the way, 70470, 70470. This is from 781. And it's about Trump's tariff authority. And I just want to show you, very quickly, just how out of control these courts are. They're just making it up now as they go along. So again, this is from 781. Jeff, you're right. The Court of International Trade, a 3-judge panel, claimed that Trump lacks authority to set tariffs on trade, claiming it is a power of Congress. However, the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 gave the president explicit authority to do exactly that. Crazy courts ignoring laws and other court rulings. Well, there you go. And it's not just the Trade Expansion Act of 1962. Nixon, furthermore, he also imposed a lot of tariffs. Okay, Nixon did as well. And there's a 1971 law based off the 1962 law that gives the president the power to impose sweeping tariffs. And by the way, in 1971, that was challenged in the courts. And guess what? The court said the president has the right to impose tariffs. So, how many laws do you need? How many court rulings in the past do you need? How many other presidents were able to do this? And yet Trump's the only one that keeps getting blocked? Now, it comes down to this, 603. And best audience in the business. I know, I say it all the time, but whatever I tell you, it's true. So if I sound like a tape, it's because it's true. So listen now to this. This is from 603. Jeff, this is literally the definition of death by 1,000 paper cuts. Trump makes a move, and some George Soros-influenced judge blocks it. Trump makes another move, and another Soros judge blocks it. And the cycle just goes on and on. The strategy is blatantly obvious. Any move Trump makes, just deploy another rogue judge to keep this administration tied up in knots and tied up in court. The real problem here is that we have federal judges actively working against the best interests of America, and there just doesn't seem to be any consequences for these out-of-control judges. Have we seen any one of them, a single one, be removed from the bench? El Salvador's President Bukele was exactly correct when he said the only way that they could get their country straightened out was to first remove all of the corrupt judges. Bingo. Bingo. 603. I couldn't have said it better myself. 617. It's one judge, then another judge, then another judge, and everything he does is blocked. Everything. He goes to the toilet, it's blocked. The president can't use toilet paper. You can't do that. You need approval from Congress. What are you talking about? You need approval from a judge. What the hell is this? Nobody goes to the toilet anymore without our approval. I mean, there's nothing this guy does now that is not being stymied or thwarted. And the bigger issue is they're thwarting us. That's what this is. You can vote for him. And you can vote for a certain set of policies. But we're not going to let you implement those policies. That's all. And we're going to slow walk it. We're going to block it. We're going to tie this administration up in knots. And we're going to invent rights. Suddenly now, violent, illegal alien gangbangers and terrorists. Now they've got due process and they can adjudicate this and appeal this, and it's going to take 100 years to get rid of one of them. So suddenly they're just inventing rights left, right, and center. So every other president can impose tariffs. Literally, every other president. But not Trump. Lou in Boston. Thanks for holding, Lou, and welcome.
Yeah, hi, Jeff.
Hi, Lou.
I'm traveling into Boston for work, and I just took a picture of a car in the back of the car, and it's 8647, a sign, 8647, bullseye sign. And I just think that's shouldn't be, people shouldn't be doing that. Crazy.
Well, that's what they're saying is kill him.
I know. And don't you think somebody like that, though, should be, pulled over or, reprimanded on something like that? I don't know.
Lou, I agree with you. Look, Lou, really, look, here's what the sign is. This is the sign. Imagine me driving on the road, okay? Forget another person. This is Jeff Kuhner. Under Biden, okay? Biden is now president. And kill Joe Biden with either, his face in crosshairs or a target or whatever. Kill or whatever. Assassinate Joe Biden. Assassinate Joe Biden. And a target. Now, what do you think would happen to me? First of all, that's a crime. To threaten to murder the president of the United States is a federal crime. I'd be pulled over immediately. And I'd probably go to jail. The problem, Lou, is, and I'm so happy you mentioned this, who was on last night? Brett Baer, okay? On Fox News. It was FBI Director Kash Patel. And Kash Patel literally said that he's very upset at James Comey. Why is he upset at James Comey? He goes, because that 8647 post is now becoming so popular on the left, on social media, as you pointed out, on bumper stickers and on cars, that he has to take agents off, FBI agents. He's got to pull them off cases. Listen to this. Where they're looking into terrorism, fentanyl trafficking, drug cases, child sexual predator cases, in order to deal with this massive surge in these death threats to Trump, 8647. Now, Lou, as I wrote on X last night, I said, I'm sorry, but Kash Patel is becoming an absolute joke. If this is such a problem now, that you got all of these death threats against Trump, where they're openly calling for him to be killed, and I remember 2 assassination attempts already. They almost got him in Butler. And now they're openly calling for him to be assassinated. Why haven't you arrested Comey? If you have to divert all of these, and I believe him, I do. I think he is diverting a lot of FBI agents. I think they are looking into this because they know the possibility of violence and an assassination attempt on Trump is very real. So my question is, why didn't you arrest Comey's ass? And the reason why they're proliferating is they looked at Comey and they said, well, if he gets away with it, I'll get away with it. And I'm telling you, it's leading up to another attempted assassination. If you have that many people calling for Trump to be gunned down and killed, then someone is going to take another shot. It's like it's like saying the sun is going to rise. Anybody can. Ray Charles can see this coming, as Mel in New York likes to say. So, Lou, in theory, I'm so with you, and I'm very happy you called. Because you're right. Someone should pull him over, and they should be arrested on the spot. Say, hey, buddy, you're calling for the president to be murdered. You think this is funny? And his answer is going to be, well, what are you going to do? James Comey he just finished Stephen Colbert. He went on Wolf Blitzer yesterday. And he called it a, quote, cute political artistic expression. It was a cute political artistic expression. And he's making fun of Kash Patel. He's mocking Kash Patel. He's mocking Pam Bondi. And he's mocking Dan Bongino. He's taunting them. He's saying, you can't arrest me. Nah, 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 nah. So, to me, Kash Patel is becoming a joke. By the way, he also said, and I want to come right back to you, Lou, but just as an aside, he also came out and said, quote, he doesn't want to rush the Epstein files being released. I'm like, rushed? You don't want to rush? You've been sitting on it for months. What the hell are you guys doing with those files? Like, seriously. So, look, again, as I said on X, this is a cover-up. It smells cover-up. It's got all the feeling now of a cover-up. They don't want to release the files. If they do, they're destroying stuff. They're redacting stuff. They're removing or editing stuff. It's very obvious. But the larger issue is Comey threatened to murder the President of the United States, and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino blinked. That's just a fact. And now you've got, it's all over social media, and now in Boston, Lou's driving, and now it's bumper stickers. They're on cars, 8647 with a target, i.e. somebody put a bullet in his head. So, Lou, I got to ask you, the fact that they haven't arrested Comey, that they allowed him to issue that death threat and get away with it, this call for assassination and get away with it, has this not led to other people following Comey, imitating Comey, and repeating what Comey is saying?
I just think that I don't know if it's the president or if it's Comey that they have to arrest, and I think that the president has to up his people to get out there and start making these arrests on these different people that are threatening.
Well, I mean, Lou, let me ask you this, right? Let's give the Democrats their due. If someone said, 86-46, okay, Biden was the 46th president, and, and Jeff Kuhner's in a car with a big bumper sticker, you're following me, say you're on the road, you're behind me, and you're like, boy, this guy's a bad driver, and then you're like, son of a gun, boy, is he bad. And you're like, whoa, what's this sign? 86-46? What? He's calling for Biden to be assassinated? And you called 911. And you gave them the make of my car and my license plate. Honestly, Lou, what do you think would have happened to the Kuhner man?
I don't know if they. I'm not sure. I just don't know.
Oh, Lou, I'd be arrested. Lou, I'd take it to the bank.
No, that's what I think that you would probably be arrested, and I just think that threats against any president should be taken seriously, and they should go out there and start doing these arrests and making sure people are accountable for what they do.
Oh, I agree. Lou, I agree. And thank you very much for calling in and letting us know. And I think we're going to see more of those kind of stickers, sadly. But that's because of Comey now. It's become chic. It's fashionable. It's the in thing. It's the cool thing to do now. So, it's inspired copycats all over the country, whether it be on social media or now on the road. 617-266-6868. And by the way, you called it in. Let's say it was me. Not that I would ever do it, but let's just play out the scenario. Secret Service would be knocking on my door. Are you kidding? I would be interrogated. My wife would be interrogated. My children would be interrogated. Sandy, Mike, has he ever called for the president to be murdered in private? Does he seem stable to you? Is Jeff Kuhner a violent man? And they would slap the handcuffs on me. I mean, who are we kidding? So, no, I knew right away. I said, you have to arrest him. How could you not arrest him? Well, it takes guts to arrest somebody like Comey. They don't have guts. And Lou, I think it's getting to the point where Trump has to pick up the phone and, call Kash Patel and say, look, I'm sorry. If you don't have the stones to do this job, I'll get somebody else. Like, seriously, what do they have to do? What, this time, blow my brains out? Like, not miss by a millimeter? Is that what they got to do to get your attention? 617-266-6868. Tom in Florida. Thanks for holding, Tom. and welcome. Tom? Okay, let's see if we can reconnect with Tom. CJ in Boston. Thanks for holding, CJ, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff.
Hi, CJ.
Jeff, Trump's always wearing a hat. Maybe he should come out with the hats and the T-shirts that say 86 Comey and see how these people like it. The getting on the issue of tariffs is quite clear to a lot of people what's going on here. This is big business. It's not based on profit. That's why 50 years ago they started moving to China and Mexico. It's the profit margin these corporations are making. And what the corporations have been doing for years is dictating policy in America. Whether it's pharmaceuticals, whether it's automobiles, whether it's your clothing. It's all about profit margin. And the way they make those profit margins is by manufacturing these goods in countries where they pay $2 an hour and they don't pay the tariffs coming in. That's the problem. The month before Trump imposed the tariffs, America took in $9.5 billion in tariffs. The month the tariffs were imposed, America took in over $16 billion in tariffs. That was in the first month. Big business does not want America to impose these tariffs because it gets into their profit margin. And they have been, as I said, Jeff, they've been running the country for years. People have to recognize this. And America is not running as a country, running on the rule of law any longer. It's running on the law of opinions. So we have 9 Supreme Court judges, for instance. They've all gone to law school. They're all lawyers. So there are certain statutes and laws put on the books. Why is it they all have different opinions on the same rule of law? My opinion is they ought to get rid of the Supreme Court. And what Trump needs to do, you're absolutely with people. What he needs to do is to refuse these injunctions by these lawyers, judges, and have them take the action. That's the mistake his administration is making. You have these judges take the initiative and go to the Supreme Court to say, I have the authority to do what I'm saying. I have the authority to do what I want to do. Trump should not be doing this. Ignore, 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 ignore. Because what they're trying to do now is to impede the will of over 77 million people who elected Donald J. Trump as President of the United States of America. They need to do with these judges what they did to Judge Dugan in Milwaukee. She impeded ICE from doing their job. She stopped ICE from doing their job. These judges are doing the same thing on a different level, but it's still obstruction. It's obstructing the executive branch of government from the authority that they have. I'll tell you, Jeff, I would not hesitate to have the Justice Department knock on their doors with 30 agents, 40 agents at 4 o'clock in the morning, kick their doors in, and arrest their ass.
CJ, you are on fire, my friend. Look, you're completely right. I'm telling you, I'm not defending what that crazy judge in Milwaukee did. Okay. You know, I'm against it. I would argue that what this 3-judge panel, just to use them as an example, did is much worse. Yes, that's a criminal illegal alien. You should never let someone like that go. But what these judges are doing is they're selling our country, the whole country down the river. They've just crippled the president economically. They have just crippled the president of the United States. That's what they've done. They have given a massive victory to China. They've given a massive victory to all of our trade competitors, to all of our trade adversaries who have been taking advantage of us for decades. How many jobs? How much of our supply chain? How many entire industries we have sold out? How many people's livelihoods have been crushed? Look at how we've empowered, say, communist China and what they have done with this wealth and power they stole from us. How many of our trade secrets, our research and development, our intellectual property are some of our best technologies and we just gave it away? And Trump is saying, no, this is now going to end. They've been raping our country, plundering our country for decades. And these judges side with them? These are Benedict Arnolds. They're traitors. And so I'm with you. I'm completely with you. And you're right. They are impeding him from being able to do his job. And look, I think you're right. I think because Trump's people right away said, we're going to appeal. I'm like, I think you're putting the cart before the horse. I think Trump needs to address the country and said, no, we're not appealing anymore. You guys want to make your ridiculous rulings? You appeal it. I'm not going to abide by it, as Andrew Jackson famously said. Justice Marshall has made his ruling. Now let him enforce it. Like, in other words, you're not going to tie my hands when I'm doing my constitutionally delineated delegated authority as commander-in-chief. So I'm sorry. There was nothing wrong with my tariffs in my first term. There was nothing wrong when George Bush had to impose tariffs. There was nothing wrong when Reagan imposed tariffs, when Nixon imposed tariffs, when Eisenhower imposed tariffs, all the way to George Washington. All of a sudden now it's a problem when I do it? No, I don't think so. No, bye. You don't like it? Take it to the Supreme Court. You do it, not me. Bye. 7:18 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let's go to Daryl in Georgia. Thanks for holding, Daryl, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Daryl.
That caller CJ stole some of my thunder, but I want to just point out a few differences. These 3 points here. There was the House that already narrowly passed a bill that's sitting on Jeff Thune's desk that will actually negate some of this stuff if they can rein in some of these district judges. But for some reason, they just won't get past Jeff Thune. John Thune, and put it up for a vote. And then the other one is that all we have to do is have Pam Bundy actually arrest some of these judges for sedition. And as Rush Limbaugh used to call it Club Gitmo, Guantanamo Bay, send them all down there. They're going to call him a dictator anyway, so bad press, they're going to give him bad press no matter what. Start sending these people down there to Club Gitmo. That's what I think they ought to do.
Well, and Daryl, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, what I find incredible, really, is, okay, say Congress doesn't like the fact that Trump is implementing these sweeping tariffs on all of these countries and he's renegotiating deal after deal. Then Congress can take all that power back. In other words, the reason why Trump has this authority is because, A, there were laws passed over many decades, where Congress kept ceding more and more of its trade authority to the president to make these kind of, fast track or unilateral deals. Now, Congress is the one that delegated its authority. Congress can take it back. It's very simple. If you're not happy with the way Trump is using the tariff authority, then, the House and the Senate can get together and say, no, any future deal with any other country has to be approved by Congress. So they can do that. But that's not what's going on. Congress is not, banging the table saying, oh my God, why is Trump doing this? It's these unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats, these judges, as I call them, fascists in black robes, who suddenly now think they're God. And they think that they can override the executive branch, they can override the legislative branch, and they can essentially decide who runs this country, i.e. them. And you're completely right. This is treason. This is sedition. This is complete abuse of power. This is not what judges are supposed to do. It's not what the Constitution says they're supposed to do. But, look, in the end, Daryl, if Congress won't police its authority over the legislative branch, and if the president or the executive branch will not assert its authority over the executive branch, then they have no one to blame but themselves. Look, to make it very simple, okay? Just to go back a little bit to Kash Patel and James Comey. Now, Patel is fuming. He's angry. He's really livid. And I believe him. He's very upset. He said, you don't know what Comey has done to us. That 8647 post calling for the assassination of Trump, it has led to copycats everywhere. It's led to a massive surge of death threats, whereby liberals are now openly calling for Trump to be killed, and they're using 8647. And he says, I've got to take agent after agent, hundreds and hundreds of agents who are working on terrorism cases, arresting child molesters and child rapists, fentanyl dealers. And these are people that kill countless Americans. He goes, I got to pull them off these cases. Why? Because all we're dealing now is with threats to the life of the president of the United States. And he's, wringing his hands and he's pounding the table. And there he is. He's upset. He's hot under the collar. Well, all I'm thinking is, you got the power, man. Like, you can, forgive me, but you can bitch and whine about Comey all you want. Arrest him. If this was Merrick Garland and this was the Biden administration, I'll tell you this, that they would have put the handcuffs a long time ago. See, say what you want about the Democrats, they arrest. The J6ers, day one. See, notice, look what our side does. And I know I'm going to get the same emails from the same people. Give him time. It's only been 100 days. He has to weed out everybody in the bureaucracy. The guy's got a lot on his plate. So it's always excuses after excuses. Always an excuse for inaction and doing nothing. Even though, how much clearer do you want? 86 Trump. Kill Trump. What do you want him? Yell it from a bullhorn? No, he can't do it. Doesn't want to do it. He's afraid to do it. So, on day one of Biden's presidency, day one, Merrick Garland was already arresting J6ers. I'm talking by the dozens every day. Dozens. Political opponents by the day. Hell, they went after a former president of the United States, not a former FBI director, a former president of the United States, Trump, who was then the leading presidential candidate for the next election. They tried to bankrupt him. They tried to imprison him. Then they went into his house, guns blazing, with shoot to kill orders. And they had no problem. No problem whatsoever. And then, I'm telling you, I don't believe that Thomas Crooks acted alone. I don't believe it. None of the evidence points to him acting alone. Then they tried to kill him. Literally kill him. So, no, they impeached Trump twice. I could go on and on. So you see, when the Democrats are in power, they know how to wield power. When our side wields power, give him a break. It's a hard job. It takes time. You're being too hard on him, Jeff. Come on, Jeff. Let it go, Jeff. So, I'm sorry. He's the FBI director. Don't whine to Brett Baer about James Comey, leading now to this copycats of people wanting to kill Trump. You arrest him, you send a message. You don't arrest him, you let it be known you're a paper tiger. There are no consequences. So is Pam Bondi going to go after these judges? No. I'm telling you, she's not. That's not what Pam Bondi does. Now, to do an interview on Fox News, Then that she's there. She's there. But to actually start arresting people, Daryl, that's above her pay grade. 7:33 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 if you want to be part of the show. Okay, one of the reasons why Trump is being blocked now on his tariffs by this so-called Court of International Trade based in New York, 3-judge panel. No one ever heard of these people, but, let that go. Is he was on the verge of a major victory over the European Union. Now, again, this is not, dry trade stuff. This is everyday stuff that affects all of us. The European Union systematically discriminates against our farmers, our agricultural products, our cars. It's almost impossible to sell American cars in Europe. And they block American cars. And if you're lucky enough to actually get them into the market, they impose a huge tariff on American cars. And so Trump is saying, look, you're taking advantage of us. You're ripping us off. And, we protect Europe. We have troops in Europe. We underwrite their entire security. We saved Europe twice. Twice. Not once, twice. In fact, if you throw in the Cold War, 3 times. And so Trump's argument is, well, let me get this straight. For over 100 years, we have saved you from yourselves. And we have protected you and helped rebuild you after World War II. All of this came from the United States. And you guys aren't even allowing us to sell our cars into your market? You're not even allowing us to sell our corn or our wheat or our basic agricultural staples into your market? No. This is going to change. And so what he did was, and it's leverage. He's not going to keep a 50% tariff. But he said, no, now you're going to get hit with a 50% tariff. And of course, the moment the Europeans were like, what? 50%. Not even 25%. Forget 10%. 50%. Right away, they ran to the negotiating table. Let's make a deal. Suddenly now we can allow cars to come into Europe. Suddenly we can sell our wheat and our corn and our foodstuffs and our other products. But now, because of this 3-judge panel, they've just cut Trump under, literally, they've cut him off, they've taken his feet out from underneath him. They just pulled the rug out from the guy. Listen now to Trump. Again, this is before the ruling, where he's being taunted by these liberal reporters. Well, they're calling you chicken now. Really? They're saying you're a chicken because you talk tough, but then you get into these negotiations and you lower your tariff. And Trump is like, that's the whole point. I come in high to go lower so I get the deal that I want for our people, our manufacturers, our businesses, our farmers, our workers. Like, hello, I wasn't planning to stay at 50%, but I used 50% to get them to the table and make big concessions. It's called the art of the deal. Listen now to Trump saying, I've got the Europeans now willing to make massive concessions. Roll cut 4A, Mike.
I can promise you, and I have great respect for the people at the European Union, they wouldn't be over here today negotiating if I didn't put a 50% tariff on. The sad thing is now when I make a deal with them, it's something much more reasonable. They'll say, oh, he was chicken. That's so unbelievable.
On Harvard, Mr. President.
I usually have the opposite problem. They say you're too tough.
Well, yeah, what's chicken? Again, what are we, children? So, yes, I will come in hard, come in heavy to get a deal, to force concessions and them to, open their markets up And then, of course, we'll come down to a more reasonable tariff. It's called business. It's called negotiating. I want to play one more cut. Roll cut 11. Now, this is a nasty reporter. Again, one of these fake news reporters from one of the big corporate media outlets, and saying, well, you're chickening out. You're not going to stick to your 50% with the Europeans. You talk tough, but deep down, you're just a chicken. And listen to Trump's response. Roll cut 11. Mike.
They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number? And I said you have to open up your whole country. And because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till July 9. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want. And we have an end date of July 9th. You call that chickening out?
Now, the point is this. This ruling now, late afternoon, whatever, early evening, that ruling now by this Court of International Trade in New York, okay, this low-level panel, they've just taken away all of his negotiating power. He brought the Europeans to the table. They were bending the knee. The Chinese bending the knee. Canada bending the knee. Mexico bending the knee. India bending the knee. Japan bending the knee. And you know what they've just done now? They literally have just cut him off at the knees. So what they've done is they have not just interfered in the conduct of the foreign policy and the trade policy of the United States, but what they have now done is they have stabbed the president in the back. That's what they've done. They have openly sabotaged and undermined his ability to now defend American national interests. And this is not some little dinky thing. I'm talking about tens of millions of jobs, entire sectors of our economy. I'm talking about our manufacturing, our supply chains, our farmers, our workers. And now these deals that we would have that would be much more advantageous and favorable to us, now he's just been undercut by this court. Now, I'm sorry, man. There's got to be consequences for this. You don't have the right to do that. And it goes back to what CJ said. If a judge in Wisconsin cannot impede with law enforcement in the arrest of a criminal illegal alien, how can a couple of dinky judges undercut the ability of the President of the United States himself to conduct foreign policy, to conduct trade policy in the midst of very sensitive negotiations? There's got to be consequences for this. Now, either you defund these courts, either you slap sanctions on these courts, either you remove these corrupt judges from the bench. I don't care how you do it, but enough is enough. Am I wrong? 617-266-6868. Is this now treason against the president and against the voters? 750 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask all of you, the great audience of Kuhner Country. It is the poll question of the day. When Trump reverses himself on tariffs or lowers the rate, say from 145 to 100 to now 30 with communist China, or, the EU 50%, and eventually he'll go down to, 20 or 15%. So when Trump lowers his tariff rate or reverses himself, is he A, chicken? Because that's what the media and the Democrats are now calling him. They're saying he's a chicken when it comes to tariffs. Or B, is this all part of his master plan? Come in high, force them to negotiate, to make real concessions, and then you get at a reasonable number. Is it A, chicken, B, all part of his strategy and master plan? You know where I stand. I think it's obviously B, but that's me. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, WRKO.com/Kuhner, WRKO.com/Kuhner, KUHN as in National ER. You can also vote via X. And again, last night, very active on X. My handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, KUHN as in National ER. Let me just add one other very, very quick footnote. Jasmine Crockett, you know her, the crazy radical Democrat, recently went on MS Left BC, and she said the quiet part out loud. She said, take it to the bank. If the Democrats win back the majority in the House, we are not only going to impeach Donald Trump. They're not even saying for what. They're already saying, no, he's already going to be impeached a third time. He's a goner. We're going to impeach this guy. Come hell or we'll make whatever we'll find the crime, but we're impeaching this guy. And we're investigating him and his entire family to see if we can find financial crimes. So they're not even close to coming back to power. And they're already looking to smash and destroy Trump. They're looking to impeach. They're looking to investigate. They're looking to criminalize. They're looking to put in jail. And not just him. They want to go after Melania, Barron, Eric, Don Jr., anybody in the Trump orbit or in the Trump family. Our guys, we've got James Comey on his own social media post, and he admits, rock formation. My wife said, look at it. Jim, this is so beautiful. Take a picture of it. So you've got Jim Comey posting on his own social media, 8647, kill Trump. Nothing. Nothing. I mean, nothing. The Epstein files. Crime upon crime upon crime upon crime. We'll release it when we release it. We'll get to it when we get to it. And I could go on and on. On and on. That's why Republicans don't win. Because they're afraid to win. And I got to give these Dems their due. Look at this. These low-level hack judges, these hacks that no one has ever heard of. And they're standing up to the President of the United States. They're blocking him even though they know what they're doing is clearly illegal, unconstitutional, political. It's a clear usurpation of authority and power. They know it. These are crooked judges. And they still do it. Our side, when we've got them dead to rights, they're guilty as sin. How much more obvious can you make it? They need more time. They got to reorganize the department. It's a tough decision. I don't know. Jeff, I don't know. Jeff, I don't know. It's a tough call, Jeff. That's our side. We play badminton. They play smash mouth football. Dan in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
I appreciate you taking the call, Jeff.
My pleasure, Dan.
It's absolutely sickening. And I'm telling you, I'm tired of it, and the rest of the United States people are tired of it. I feel like an ant where they can just step on you and squish you and forget about you. But what they forget is that in an ant colony of 330 million, everything gets out of the way when that colony becomes on the move and basically has energy that's to fight. I hate to say it, but we've got a political cartel going on within our own government. It's a government within a government. It's a shadow government. It's a cancerous cloud. And unfortunately, and this is what it really is, they're trying to burn it all down. Everything that's good, they don't care. And in fact, while they're burning it down, they're burning all of us down, including the liberals. We're all going to pay for all this foolishness. Jeff, I'm telling you right now, the people have got to speak. The president has got to go up in front. He's got to have a fireside chat or something like that, basically explaining the situation. This is ridiculous. We cannot survive as a country as divided as we are. If united we stand, divided we fall, and that's part of our mantra. That's who we are. But these people, all they care about is their blood-sucking power to take every single thing that we've got, our freedom, our liberty, our money, and all for what? For their power, for them to tell us what the hell to do and how the hell to do it? I'm telling you right now, Jeff, this is sickening. They're parasites. They're termites. They're eating this country from the inside out. They make us look like fools on the national stage. Trump's trying to do everything he can possibly do with all these trade deals and tariffs and things like that. And what do? They make him look like a fool around the world for everybody coming to the table. And now they're all saying, well, should we be at that table? What's larger, the black government that's in the United States or the true legitimate government that's been voted in by the people? I'm telling you, Jeff, right now, I'm sick. I'm fired up. And everybody in this country should be, because basically what they want to do is burn all of us down, everything good, all the accomplishments, all for their sickening power and their obsession of control. And I can't stand it. Everyone should see it. It's a damn lie. They're treasonous. They're treacherous. And basically, if they have their way, we're going to fall. Division, we're going to fall. So, Jeff, I'm telling you right now, I am of the thought of every listener on this station that we're being taken advantage of, we're being made fools of, and basically watching our beautiful, hard-working president being hobbled and crippled. Why aren't these people going in front of Congress? Why aren't these judges going in front of Congress and being told, what the hell's going on, you three? What do you think you're doing? You're harming the country. I mean, come on, give it a break. And about this Epstein thing, why isn't his girlfriend out on some stage somewhere getting tons of money and exposing all of this instead of everything hiding behind mirrors and curtains? I'm sick of it. This country, we voted Trump in. We voted our mandate, and they're stuffing it up our you-know-what.
Oh, Dan, you're dead on. And look, there are now pictures coming out, stories coming out, that some of these judges now that are blocking Trump, guess what? They went to Epstein Island. And you mentioned Ghislaine Maxwell, his accomplice, his enabler, the one that's in prison now. There are literally now pictures of her massaging the feet. I got to be careful. It's a family show. Massaging the feet of some of these very liberal judges, and their feet are, how do I say this? Like right on her breasts. So it's a very sexual pose. So they've got bare feet. She's massaging them, very close up to her cleavage, and they're relaxing, have a drink, and they're flying on Epstein's private plane. So these judges, many of them are complicit in what Epstein did. So you've got corrupt judges left, right, and center. And Dan, look, I think you put your finger on it. What's happening now? This is a legal insurrection, a judicial insurrection. That's what this is really happening. And what they're saying is that these rogue Democrat radical judges are now asserting almost unprecedented power. They're saying we have more authority than the president himself. And if you've noticed, they've blocked him on everything. Executive orders, whether it's immigration, whether it's deportations, whether it's energy policy, whether it's who he can hire, who he can fire, whether he can have Doge, you name it. And what they're doing now is, and this is what I'm trying to warn everybody, they're trying now to tilt the balance of power. That's what they're really doing. They're tilting the balance of power above the people, above the democratic will of the voters, really towards this unaccountable elite. Them. In other words, we're not just going to have a national security deep state. We're going to have a judicial government deep state in which judges, unelected, unaccountable, many people, you don't even know who many of them are, they make the real ultimate policy decisions, not the voters. So, you may want a secure border, blank you. You may want mass deportations, blank you. You may want to get rid of gangbangers and criminal, violent, illegal aliens, blank you. We're becoming a banana republic. Like, Brazil, other countries, it's a banana republic, where the country is held hostage, whereby unelected judges dictate national policy, and essentially they paralyze and neuter the legislative and executive branches. It's judicial tyranny. Now, if Congress doesn't have the guts to take power back from these unelected judges, then they've betrayed their oath, and they've betrayed the Republic, and they've betrayed the Constitution. And the same thing goes for the president and the people around him. And that's why I'm urging the president, he has to now address the country and say, no, these guys are high on their own supply. These guys are drunk with power. They're drunk with hubris. And I am no longer going to abide by it. I am acting clearly within my constitutional prerogatives, my constitutional authority. If every president going all the way back to George Washington can impose tariffs, I can't because 3 judges say so? I don't think so. So what? I can't secure the border now? So I don't run federal agencies? So we can't deport illegal aliens? So in other words, so what am I now? Just a ceremonial head of state? That's what you've reduced the president now to? Because you don't like the fact that the voters picked me? No. Dan, you're right. He's got to now wage an absolute frontal assault. His presidency is at stake right now. And not just his presidency. The presidency is at stake. The executive branch is at stake. The legislative branch is at stake. The Constitution and separation of powers is at stake. Dan, dynamite call. 617-266-6868. Jeff in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Jeff, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Good to speak to you again.
Hi, Jeff.
Can we get back to, I just want to get back to what you were saying about the 8647.
Yes.
Was when I initially called. I know the subject's changed a little.
No, go ahead. No worries. Go ahead.
So we can tell you what the Democrats do. They shot a 70-year-old man in Utah because he posted something online. The guy was confined to a walker and said he was going to go to a Biden rally. And they went to his house and shot him to death rather than wait for him to walk down the driveway and get his mail. That's the length the Democrats are willing to go to. I mean, I don't see us being able to fix this without us just saying, forget it, we're not going to work anymore. No money goes into the Treasury. Let's see how these judges get paid when the American taxpayer stops going to work. There's 80 million of us. And the fact of the matter is, what could they do? It's the only way to end it without violence at this point.
Jeff, look, let me ask you, you're making, again, very, very good points. And your point about the Utah man is not 100, as I like to say, but 1,000% correct. But, Jeff, let me ask you this. Look, we, at least in theory, we control the White House, the presidency. We control the Department of Justice. We control the FBI. We control every cabinet. Every cabinet department is now ours. we control, at least in theory, the House and the Senate. Now, instead of you and I and this audience and others potentially going to jail for not paying our taxes, why doesn't Trump, as an example, come out and say, I'm not going to abide by these illegal, ridiculous, unconstitutional rulings? This is third world banana stuff. It's outrageous. Why doesn't Congress come out and say, we're going to defund you? Forget the taxpayers not going to work and, poor guys like, Jeff and Quincy and Jeff and, on WRKO potentially going to jail. How about, no, we're not paying your salary. We're defunding the entire court system. Blank you. Like, what I don't understand is, why are we accepting passivity and cowardice from our leaders in Congress who should be stepping up now to defend the Constitution, to defend the will of the people? And I'm not saying Trump is a warrior. He's a gladiator. But I think it's time for Trump to come out and say, look, they're going to call me a dictator. You can call me whatever you want. And just explain these rulings and say, you tell me. How can I function as president if I'm going to have to abide by these rulings? I cannot do what you elected me to do. So I have no choice but to ignore them. And if they want to go and take it to the Supreme Court, they can take it to the Supreme Court. But I'm not putting up with this anymore. In other words, Jeff, isn't it time for defiance? Isn't it time now for us to say, you know what? We're not going to give you the power because we're not going to listen to you anymore. We're going to ignore these rogue judges. Is it time for us to basically say, we don't care. Make whatever ruling you want. It's just a meaningless piece of paper. In the end, Jeff, if we don't respect them and if we don't abide by them, judges have no power. Am I wrong?
100% correct. However, the second Trump's out of office, if Democrats ever regain power, they will put him in jail, and he knows that. The fact of the matter is, I don't want to ruin your faith in Congress, but the fact of the matter is, the Republicans are equally terrible. And there's 9 fighters in Congress. That's what we have, basically 9 people fighting for the American people. The Marjorie Taylor Greens, Matt Gaetz is gone. The typical 9 people that we have, Josh Hawley, and he's not even fantastic. I think the only way to deal with it at this point is for the American people to take it into their own hands, because there's no one fighting for us other than us. And when tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty. So yes, ignore the courts. Take it from there. If Trump's willing to go to prison for it later, I'm not sure he is, but maybe he is. I don't know. I mean, if we stop going to work, we end this overnight. No one's going to go to jail for tax evasion. Have Donald J. Trump say, you know what? You got pardons issued, blanket pardons for 20 years. I'm going to pardon every one of my Trump every Trump supporter for the next 4 years of tax evasion. There you go. There's your blanket pardon. Let's see how that works out.
Jeff, you're a fighter, man. I love it. I love it. Jeff, thank you very much for that call. Debbie in Milton, thanks for holding, Debbie, and welcome.
Yeah, hi, Jeff.
Hi, Debbie.
I want to agree with the previous caller, and in addition to that, we are being destroyed from within, and I've been involved in looking into this, but Washington, D.C. is a District of Columbia. The District of Columbia is the Brits. The Brits have been involved in many wars with us, and we've had to fight them off before. And we believe, so people that I'm talking to, believe that we are already going to be going into World War III. So not only are we being destroyed from within, we are being destroyed from outside. And NATO, we believe that the Brits are in charge of that, and they are not going to listen to Trump no matter what. And that they're just going to keep on going until they reach their ultimate goal. And if you remember...
Debbie, can you please hang on? I want to continue this on the other side. I'm up against the break. Look, let me ask all of you. I want to take it at least one more segment. What should Trump do now? He's facing mass opposition across the entire liberal judiciary. What should be his next step? Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. All right, 617-266-6868. If you want to text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. And this is an absolute doozy from 617. Jeff, impeaching a district court judge requires 67 Senate votes. But defunding an entire district court requires only 51 Senate votes. Defund. It's doable. Defund. I agree. This 3-judge panel, this Court of International Trade that made that ridiculous ruling late, yesterday evening, blocking all of Trump's tariffs, every single one of them, claiming that he doesn't have the authority now to impose these sweeping tariffs, defund him. Just defund him. Now, that takes a little bit of guts. You know, you got to call up Mike Johnson. You got to call up John Thune. You got to call these guys up and say, I need you to put some votes together, especially on the Senate side. But I think we can get 50 plus 1, and let's send a message. You rule like this, you're ruling yourself out of a job. Out of a job, out of a pension. In fact, the whole freaking court, the whole court level, the whole court system, the entire district court, gone. And then let's see how tough you are. 617-266-6868. And by the way, many of you have made this point on the text line. I just want to say it. So many of you have said it, so I don't want to just single out certain numbers. But, you know, the fact that, let's say, Trump says, no, I'm going to defy. Now, remember, he's defying a clearly unlawful, illegal ruling, a blatantly unconstitutional abuse of power ruling. He's got every right to defy it. But I don't know what the big deal is. Joe Biden defied, ignored lawful Supreme Court rulings, say, on student aid and student debt loans. So when Biden was behaving illegally and illegitimately and the Supreme Court slapped him down, he still ignored him. So the sky didn't fall. I don't remember anybody in the media or in the Democratic Party saying he's a dictator, not Hitler, fascist, this can't stand. So let me get this straight. A Democrat president, when he's blatantly breaking the law and is told by the Supreme Court to knock it off, he can ignore the Supreme Court and nothing happens. But if President Trump is to ignore some low-level dinky court judge who is clearly usurping his authority and violating separation of powers and engaging in blatant judicial overreach, suddenly this is the end of Weimar Germany? Suddenly now the Fourth Reich is rising from the ashes? I don't think so. So if Biden can ignore, Trump can ignore. Agree, disagree? Susan in Waltham. Thanks for holding, Susan, and welcome. Susan? All right, let's see if we can reconnect with Susan. Let's go to, where do you want to go to, Mike? Maestro Mike? All right, Mark in Milton. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. Thank you very much for taking my call.
My pleasure.
Very similar to the big budget bill, I think there's a pretty easy solution. And this really does come down to how Trump had said months and months and months and months ago, maybe years ago, about the enemy within. On this trade court, or whatever it is, these trade judges, why doesn't Trump just get with Pete Hegseth and announce that unless the EU comes to the table immediately, we're closing the base in Rammstein, Germany? and other bases throughout Europe and let them fend on their own. And they've got 24 hours to respond. We pulled out of Afghanistan disastrously. We can pull out of safe venues and think of what that will do for the budget. It will probably pay for the Golden Dome. And then back to speaking about the budget. I don't like the big, beautiful bill because there's too much in it. It's going to be one of those Nancy Pelosi, read it and then we'll see what's there. Come back to Magic Mike and say, hey, Mike, we're going to put your guys to work. Every item in that bill needs to become a separate bill. Donald Trump loves signing stuff. We see it on TV all the time. So he has to sit and sign 300 separate bills. Each one of those bills would have to pass both Congress and the Senate. And every American would see who voted for what. I think there's more ways to skin the cat. And we have to start thinking of better ways to fight back. And here are two pretty simple. I mean, it's not. I mean, oh my God, God forbid, Congress might have to work throughout the summer. Oh my God, they might actually have to put in time to get this done. But they're the ones that talk tough. So let's make sure that they follow up on their words.
Well, look, Mark, in theory, I completely agree with you. Okay, so I want you to know that in principle, philosophically, I am with Mark in Milton all the way. I don't like big bills. I don't like these, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 page bills, and they pack everything in there. I prefer much smaller bills, much more narrow, targeted bills, and you can read what's in it, and you really can see where every member of Congress stands on every specific particular issue. The problem I have now is, let's not quibble. We're a couple days away from June. So we're basically in June. Now, what I don't get is, what have they been doing for the last 6 months? No, really, Trump was inaugurated January 20th. Congress was sworn in weeks before January 20th. So they've been in power now since the early January. They've only passed 2-3 bills. So the problem now is that, okay, let's say we do what you're suggesting. I don't think we'll see anything. Well, really, honestly. At this rate, so what? We're going to start getting bills in October, November, December? Remember, next year's the midterms. They don't want to pass anything then. 8:33 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, a couple lines are open if you want to jump on. Just relax for a couple minutes, everybody. Please, just sit back, 2 minutes. And I want to run a couple things by you. And you tell me if you agree or disagree. There's no question now that the president is facing a constitutional crisis, a legal crisis. This is clearly now a judicial insurrection. There's no doubt now. And so the question is, what should he do? What can he do? He's got many options. He's got the people behind him. He's got, obviously, he's a force of nature. He's got control of the House. He's got control of the Senate. He's got control of the DOJ. So clearly the Democrats are attacking him from a position of weakness. And it seems to me, now you may disagree, I'm just giving you, like I'm being honest with you, like I'm in the confessional, that the reason why the Democrats are engaged in a scorched earth policy, and that's what this really now has become. It's scorched earth. The party has never been more unpopular. The Democratic brand has never been weaker or more toxic. You've got judge after judge now. They are burning their credibility. They are destroying their credibility, and they know that they're destroying the credibility of the entire judicial branch in order to try to block, obstruct, or stop Trump. And you have to ask yourself why. And I think one of the key reasons is, and Trump touched on it in that cut that I played earlier. He goes, what am I, 120 days into my presidency? I've already secured, this is an astronomical, mind-numbing number, $14 trillion in investment because people don't want to pay a high tariff. So they're going to start coming here, investing here, building here, bringing factories, capital, jobs, pouring into the United States. And so it seems to me that what is petrifying the media, what is petrifying the left, the Democrats, and of course these rogue Democrat judges, these hacks, is they know that Trump now is going to be incredibly, wildly successful with the economy. That if they can pass this big, beautiful bill, and I agree with Mark in theory, I don't like big bills, I like small bills. I wish they had started working on this in last January. I just can't believe how lazy these members of Congress are, especially leadership. And by the way, most of the summer, it's off. I know Mark would like them to, I would like them to work all summer. You would like for them to work all summer. Mark would like for them to work all summer. They've already got 2 months penciled out. They're gone. For 2 months, they're gone. They've already got their summer recess. It's already booked. So you're not going to get them to work on small bills. I want them to. You want them to. Look, we're lucky if we get a big, beautiful bill by July 4th. Because you can tell the strategy now by the establishment is slow walk everything. Slow Trump down. Slow walk him. Just slow. Paralyze. Do nothing. Do as little as possible. Because by next year, everybody's going to be in midterm mode. And when they're in the midterm, when it's the year of the midterms, nothing gets done. So just drag this out. Run out the clock, as they say. So that's why I'm like, look, you got to pass the big, beautiful bill. It's now or never. And the big, beautiful bill is Trump's presidency. Whether we like it or not, this is what it's turned into. His tax cuts are on the line. No tax on tips. No tax on overtime. A caller was right. Sorry, someone who emailed me was right. I looked into the bill. I said there was no tax on Social Security. That's not true. There's only a $4,000 deduction. It's not bad, but it's a $4,000 deduction on Social Security benefits. So there will be still some taxes on Social Security. But anyway, it's still better. But my point is, it's his tax cuts. It will lead to a booming economy. It will permanently secure the border. It will give the $12 billion that we need to finally build the wall and to really deport now millions and millions of illegals. They're going to hire 3,000 Border Patrol ICE agents. So the deportations will really kick into high gear. It's his Golden Dome, his missile defense shield. It's rebuilding our military now to make us as strong, if not stronger than China, especially with our Navy. It's got some entitlement reform. It's got work requirements for Medicaid. It gets rid of so much of the waste, fraud, and abuse. The Doge cuts are going to be made permanent. It takes all of these illegals, 1.4 million, kicks them off of Medicaid. I mean, there's so much there. Now, in particular, it's going to unleash an economic boom, an economic expansion, the likes we have never seen. And so going into the next year and going into the midterms, Trump and the Republicans are going to have the economic wind at their back. Wages are going to go up. Jobs are going to soar. The stock market is going to skyrocket. Unemployment is going to completely come crashing down. inflation is going to really start to decline. So that's going to give that kind of economic growth is now going to make Trump hugely successful. It's his presidency. They won't be able to stop him. After that, Trump becomes unstoppable. Because then the tariffs, all the work with the tariffs, the factories now will be completed. The manufacturing will have come back. So it's just going to add and add. He's going to make America 10 times stronger and infinitely wealthier. So they fear that the tariffs are going to work. They fear that Trump's economy is going to pose an existential threat to the Democratic Party. That, let me coin a phrase, that Trumponomics is the wave of the future. It is the model for success. And the Democrats cannot see that, cannot have that happen. They fear his tariffs. They fear the big, beautiful bill. It's the goal. It's the secret sauce. Tax cuts, deregulation, secure borders, and tariffs. Game, set, match. And it's the end of globalism and the entire globalist agenda. Open borders, gone. These horrible free trade deals, gone. The endless wars. What? We've got the Golden Dome. The Golden Dome is going to make us the most powerful country in the world with almost an impregnable homeland. We don't need to meddle in other people's affairs, or much less so. Why? Because we've got an invincible missile defense shield that's going to protect us. The Democrats need to stop Trump now. And on top of all of this, consumer confidence now, if you've seen the latest polls, now is over 50%. People who think the country's on the right track for the first time in polling history, 50%. Trump's on a roll. Oh, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Okay, just to put an exclamation point on what I was talking about in the last segment. So you've got all the ingredients now for, to quote Trump, a new golden age. And in particular, a new economic golden age. The tariffs are really starting to drive in a lot of investment. You've got American manufacturing that is now roaring back. You've got this big, beautiful bill that if they pass it, you're going to talk about an economic boom that we haven't seen in a long time. And so Trump's economic agenda, his success, the success of the tariffs, the success of his tax cuts, the success of everything he's been doing, poses now an existential threat to the Democratic Party. That's why they have to block the tariffs. That's why these judges had to come out yesterday with that ridiculous 3-panel judge ruling, pretty much now stopping almost all of Trump's tariffs. They know another year and we're done. We're cooked. Our goose is cooked. Because Trump will be too popular, too strong. There'll be just too much prosperity. And the Democrats will not be able to compete for at least a generation. Trumponomics is going to become the wave of the future. So either they block him now and try to blow up his presidency while they still can, or else if the Trump train keeps rolling, they're done. They're finished. They know it. And frankly, I think the establishment knows it. Not just, I'm talking about the Democrats, but even the Republicans. And so that's why you've got all of these senators now in the GOP trying to blow up the big, beautiful bill. I don't want to repeat yesterday, but now they're all budget hawks all of a sudden now? All of a sudden. So Biden could spend us to Palookaville. George W. Bush to Palookaville. Obama to Palookaville. Deficits after deficits after deficits, and all these people said nothing. Now Trump's in power. Oh, we got to start cutting. Ooh, 3 trillion, 4 trillion, 5 trillion. No, you're just looking for a pretext, a fig leaf to blow up the bill. To stop Trump. It's obvious. I mean, it's so obvious. So, to me, the question now is, if Trump can just keep surviving for another 6 more months and just keep what he's doing on track, he may become too big, too strong, too unstoppable. And on top of this, I don't know if you saw this, but Rasmussen reports came out. This is a massive story. The fake news media won't touch it because they know it goes against everything what they've been claiming. Remember, what have they told us? That Trump's tariffs are going to lead to the stock market crashing. It hasn't happened. That the sky, the economic sky, was going to fall. That hasn't happened. So apparently it's a dictatorship. That Hitler, we're watching Hitler now in power. Hasn't happened. So everything, their constant doom and gloom, their attempts to talk us into a recession, their attempts to talk us almost into a civil war, has not worked out. Trump's popularity now, his approval rating, 53%. It's not going down. It's going up. Consumer confidence now, 50%. Consumer confidence keeps going up and up, but this is the big one. For the first time in the history of Rasmussen, and they're one of the most accurate pollsters out there, since they've been doing polling in the history of polling at Rasmussen, they've never had any time the country say, a majority, 50% plus one, say that the country was on the right track. They didn't say it under Bush. They didn't say it under Obama. They didn't say it even under Trump's first term. They didn't even say it under Biden's term, obviously. Now, for the first time ever, Rasmussen said, wow. In fact, what they said was, holy crap. I can't say what they really said. Holy you-know-what, excrement. They said he's done it. First time in the history of our poll. 50% plus one of Americans, a majority, believe the country is now on the right track. And that's with Trump being blocked and stalled and thwarted at every corner. And they still believe the country's on the right track. Now, what do you think is going to happen if he can get the EU to capitulate on some of these, on this tariff deal? When he gets Canada to capitulate, India to capitulate, the big one, China to capitulate, and then pass the big, beautiful bill, and you've got a roaring economy with inflation dropping like a stone. Come on. You're looking at MAGA rule for a generation. You're looking at Trump being put on Mount Rushmore. You're looking now truly at the age of Trump. That's why the media, the Democrats, the never-Trumpers, these never-Trump Republicans, and these rogue judges, that's why now they're making their stand. Because if they don't stop him now, he's going to become unstoppable. Agree, disagree. Susan in Waltham. Thanks for holding, Susan, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. I've been listening and listening and listening and listening, and I have to agree with probably 99.9% of everything. But there's another view of this whole situation in our country. And clearly, Trump did not get in only because of his popularity. He got in because God put him in office through prayer of our citizens, begging God, pleading with God to give Trump back to us. And God answered our prayers. Now, he answered our prayers for a few reasons. And I think the number one reason is to give us a chance as a country to get back to him. in our lifestyle, in the way we do things, in the way we think, in the way we bring up our children, etc. And there are other factors as well, because he loves this country. And I think the big thing that we as a nation need to do is get on our knees and start praying. And even that, hopefully, maybe, I know Trump prays, but he needs to call for a national day or a day every week or every month where the nation gets on its knees and prays to God that not only did he help get Trump elected and did something very supernatural for us, but he can do something supernatural as we continue to pray and continue to turn to him. Because this is spiritual warfare going on in our country. This is not flesh and blood. The devil's using flesh and blood people, obviously. They're demonized. But we need to pray because it's a kingdom issue, and God, and the battle is God's. And he's given us Trump by his grace and mercy. And he wants us to take advantage of that, turn back to him as a nation, as a people, and as individuals, and pray that all this nonsense would be squelched by the hand of God, by a supernatural power, because we're fighting a supernatural power.
Well, Susan, I have to tell you, I could not agree with you more. I think fundamentally, this is not just a cultural battle, an ideological battle, a political battle. I believe this is ultimately a spiritual, moral battle between good and evil, right and wrong, and ultimately, as you put it, God and the devil. And I think what is now clearly being shown is that the Democrats really are becoming, in many ways, a satanic party. I mean, just stand back objectively. What sane political party supports illegal alien, yes, but criminal gangsters like MS-13 and Trender Aragua? You want to talk about evil, vile scum. You want to talk about people who, are close to devil worshippers. No, really. Who do the work of the devil. Rape children. Murder people with impunity. They, rape a poor 11-year-old girl like Joycelyn Nungare, gang rape her, and then literally chop up and dismember her body. I mean, I could go on and on. Pump this fentanyl and drugs into our country that is destroying our youth. And they are defending them. They are siding with the worst vile criminals on the planet. And they want them to stay in our country so they can continue to murder, rape, and molest. I mean, that's sick. They are the party of unlimited abortion. No restrictions whatsoever. Literally, the baby is born and they still want to kill the baby. They are for post-birth abortion. That's Tim Waltz in Minnesota. I could go. That's Kathy Hochul in New York. That's Gavin Newsom in California. That's Healy right here in Massachusetts. To me, you kill an innocent baby. I don't know how much more evil or diabolical you can get. They want men to compete in women's sports. They want to mutilate the genitals of young girls and boys. That's what being a young transgender person means. That's what a so-called gender reassignment surgery is. You are mutilating the genitals, destroying it's genital mutilation of 11, 12, 13-year-old kids. I mean, this is sick. This is evil. This is twisted. I'm just getting warmed up. I could keep going and going and going. And look, they're trying to stop a man from succeeding. They're trying to stop a man from preventing all of this. How could you be, so you don't want our country to be safe? You don't want our country to be secure? You don't want our children to be innocent? You don't want to see everybody have a good, decent job and good, decent health care and a good, decent quality of life? You don't want us to be free from censorship and cancel culture? So you want pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist animals to run wild on campus and continue to spit on and punch and kick and assault Jewish students because they happen to be Jewish? You want to return to the fascism of the 1930s? Like, that's what you want as a party? I mean, I could go on and on and on and on. And look, I'm going to get back to something I said earlier. I felt it that very day. I went on the air. It was a Saturday. I'll never forget it till the day I died. And I said it on the air then. I said, Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States, when he was shot in Butler, Pennsylvania. And I said, because I'm telling you, it was the hand of God that saved him. That bullet, 450 feet, for anybody that knows anything about marksmanship, is nothing. It's peanuts. It's peanuts. I'm telling you, it's nothing. 450 feet, a clean shot at the president's head. That bullet was going straight for his head. It would blow his brains out the way it did John F. Kennedy. And at the last possible millisecond, Trump turned to look at a chart that he never looks at or discusses. Always before, it was at the end of his speech. For whatever reason that day, it was at the very beginning of his speech. And by slightly turning his head, by 1 millimeter, the bullet missed his brain and hit his ear instead. Donald Trump should have died in Butler, Pennsylvania, and he knows it. I know this because people have told me who are very close to him. They go, what you're seeing now, this is why if you notice a change in his second term, he is a spiritually transformed man. Privately, he says, I should have been dead. It should have been another John F. Kennedy. And me lying there with my brains, oozing out of my skull. God saved me. And he saved me for a reason. And Trump is now saying he saved me to save America. And that's why he's working 22 hours a day. His staff is worried he's going to burn himself out. He's not sleeping. He just keeps working and working and working. Because he believes he has to implement every aspect of his agenda to save our country. He is a man literally on a mission, a God-driven mission. And what upsets me, Susan, is when you see a warrior like this. I mean, look at him, breaking his back, flying all over the world. Look at the bags under his eyes. Look at him. I mean, he's white as a ghost. He's got bags under his eyes. He's working 7 days a week. And he's cutting business deal and investment deal after investment deal after investment deal, pouring money into our country. I mean, he's going everywhere. All he's doing is doing deals. And then you also see him, and I was talking about this with Grace yesterday. Notice, this is what I find so scandalous about the Russia-Ukraine war. Donald Trump, who doesn't have any skin in that game. There's not one American soldier that's dying in Ukraine, okay? Yet he cares more. You can see it. He cares more. It really bothers him that 5,000 young Russian boys and young Ukrainian boys are dying every week in that senseless slaughter. He cares more about them than Vladimir Putin does or Zelensky does. Remember, those are their boys. Okay, Russian boys, that's Putin's boys. Ukrainian boys, that's Zelensky's boys. And Trump, and Grace and I were talking about this, you could see it really eats him up. That's why he won't let this peace deal go. He gave Putin another chance. He said, I'm going to give you another 10 days, damn it. Let's come to the table and end the bloodshed, for God's sake. You can tell. It eats him up. He looks at the satellite pictures, 5,000 dead every week. It haunts his conscience. It doesn't haunt Putin's conscience. It doesn't haunt Zelensky's conscience. They want to keep the meat grinder going. So what I'm saying is, when you see a warrior like this put it all on the line for his country, his people, and in this case, the world. I'm going to swear, so I had to pull myself back. Where the hell is Mike Johnson? Where the hell is John Thune? Where the hell is Rand Paul? Like, where's Steve Scalise? Like, where are all these guys? Why is it's always and only him? Notice, he's always fighting alone. I mean, he's got J.D. Vance, God bless him, and Rubio, and RFK, I think, is doing great as HHS secretary. He's got Kristi Noem. I'm not saying he doesn't. Stephen Miller is phenomenal. I'm not saying there aren't people around him that are with him, but you can count them on two hands. Why is he the only one? And if, his band of, brothers and a couple sisters who are with him. But outside of that, where are the freaking Republicans in Congress? It's disgusting. It's 3-day weeks. This guy's working 22-hour days. They work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They just another vacation recess. That was last week. And they've got another one coming up. And then they've got 2 months in the summer. You can't make this up. So this is what upsets me. You want to know look, this is the scandal. This is the crime. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to say this. Can we finally get a real person, a real patriot as Attorney General, a real patriot as FBI Director? Can we have somebody, no, not with the same balls as Donald Trump, just one of his balls, not two, one, half of his balls. Okay? So just half of his balls, put it in FBI, at the head of the FBI and at the head of the AG's office. Because all of the enemies of our republic and all of the enemies of Trump and all of the crimes that they've committed, I'm going to talk about this tomorrow. What we're finding out now about the Biden auto pen scandal. Oh my God. Oh my God. They've now located the 5 people who deliberately deceived the American people. Do you know now that they're admitting they were signing climate change executive orders that Biden knew nothing about? They're even admitting it. They go, no, the president was clueless. So hold on. You were passing executive orders that were impacting the entire economy, the entire country. And this guy is so out to lunch. He's so mentally he's so gone. He didn't even know what the hell you guys were signing? Yep. Now, if that's not treason, I don't know what is. If that's not remember, democracy. What did they tell us against Trump after January 6th? This was an assault on democracy, an attack on democracy. What did they do? It was an all-out war on democracy under Biden. I know we're a constitutional republic, but I'm just saying, what democracy? The people who ran the country were there was a shadowy, unelected, unaccountable cabal who usurped the power of the presidency and did things literally now behind his own back and the country's back. Where's Kash Patel? Where's Dan Bongino? Again, I see these clowns on. This morning they're on Fox News. Almost swore there. This morning they're on Fox News. It wasn't enough they were on Fox last night. No, they're on again this morning. So, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino. Now, here it is. Ultimatum. I don't want any more investigations. I don't want any more committee hearings. I don't want to hear you're looking into anything. All right? Here it is. June 30th. Okay? 30 more days. 30 more days. If we don't start to see some serious arrests of these deep state criminals who tried to murder our president, jail our president, implement a coup against our president, out. Out. Okay? Bye. Get somebody else who can. I'll do it. I swear to God, I'll do it. You don't have the guts to do it? I'll do it. 19 on the great WRK. There he is again. There he is again on Fox. Again. 919 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Patrick in Connecticut. Thanks for holding, Patrick, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi, Patrick.
The last time you and I spoke, we were talking about how unfair it was that the House was considering raising the top tax rate on entrepreneurs but did not address taxing the college endowments. I'm pleased to announce that after you and I spoke, I called the House Ways and Means Committee, and I called the office of Jason Smith, who's the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, which is the tax writing committee of the House of Representatives. And I explained that position, and the big beautiful bill passed the House, and it raised the excise tax of on college endowments from 1.4% to 21%.
Excellent.
And did not raise the top marginal rate on entrepreneurs. I don't know if I had any influence on it or it was already in the pipeline. But the message is to your audience is that we don't have the right to be frustrated. We don't have the right to be ground down by the establishment. We have a voice. We're powerful. Trump supporters is 75 million plus. I think we need to turn our voice on the Ron Johnsons of the world and the Rand Pauls of the world. Call their offices, email their offices, tell them that you want this bill passed, that it's critical, that the future is now in terms of the Trump presidency and the Trump and the progress of the Republican Party. We cannot be ground down by the establishment. If we get frustrated and go away, they win. What do you think?
No, you're dead on. Honestly, Patrick, I couldn't have said it better myself. And let me tell you what is, you want to talk about an existential threat, right? That Trump's economy and his tariffs and his big, beautiful bill are an existential threat to the Democrats, and they know it. Well, an existential threat to Rand Paul and Ron Johnson, as far as they're concerned, is being primaried. They live for power. They live for being in the Senate. It's their whole life. It's everything for them. So, you ring the phone off the hook. And that's why I keep telling Kuhner Country, it takes time. I'm not saying it happens overnight. But what you did, Patrick, if everybody else did it, we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in. You call, after a while, they notice, believe me. And if Rand Paul says, oh my God, this is running 10-1 against me, or 20-1 against me, you know what? Suddenly you'd be amazed how flexible he can become. Suddenly, you know what? There are enough spending cuts in the bill. Suddenly we don't need another 3, 4, 5 trillion. Because our message to them, and I think it should be, this was what our message, united voice. You vote against this big, beautiful bill, we're going to primary your ass. You're going to get primaried. And then it's going to be bye-bye. And the same thing to Rick Scott in Florida, the same thing to Ron Johnson in Wisconsin. In other words, look, it's already June. We're lucky if we get this bill done by July 4th. Now, it's taken you guys, 6, 7 months to get this bill done? And by the way, there's still so much more that needs to be done. No, I'm sorry. Enough is enough. Now, if you want to do your 3-day weeks, because Trump's not doing 3 days a week. He's 7 days a week, 22 hours a day. Now, if you guys are going to do your 3-day weeks and every second week a vacation for the whole week and, and summer's off and Christmas break and, well, okay, if you guys are only going to work about 2-3 months of the year, then get the damn bill passed. This is, really, Patrick, this is getting ridiculous. Now, we get it passed in July. You watch. Within just a couple months even, by the fall, you're going to see how it's going to turbocharge the economy. And that's the thing. They're so blind, even to their own self-interest. you want a booming economy in the year of a midterm election. That's going to help Republicans keep a lot of seats and, God willing, prevent the Democrats from retaking the House, because we know the moment they retake the House, they're going to impeach Trump. So this will give Trump a chance to have a full term in office where he can really implement and do what he wants to do. So, Patrick, I'm with you. Call him, email him. I don't care how you communicate with him, but let him know you passed the big, beautiful bill, or if you don't, we're going to primary you. And politically, your career is finished. Patty, thank you for that call, Patrick. Patty in Drake-it. Thanks for holding, Patty, and welcome.
Taking my call.
My
I
pleasure.
just have 4 really quick points to make on the constitutionality of all these rogue judges.
Yes.
The first one being, like, we're constantly being told that the 3 branches of our government are co-equal. They're not. The Founding Fathers made the legislative branch the most powerful and the judicial branch the least powerful, the weakest, because before they came over here, the judges over in England were doing the exact same thing that our judges are doing today. And principle number 2, the judiciary is not
Patty,
independent.
can you do me a favor? I promise I'm going to give you all the time you need to finish your points. Number 1, on point 1, you're a genius. I'm telling you, your IQ is over 140. I guarantee it. You're a genius. I used to teach that in university. Yes, in theory, of course, they're equal branches of government, but some are more equal than others. And the strongest branch is the one closest to the people, the legislative branch. And the founders wanted the weakest of the 3 branches to be the judges, the judicial branch. Why? Because it's furthest from the people. So, Patty, I'm telling you right away after point 1, you're a genius. Please keep going.
Principle number 2, the judiciary is not independent. According to Constitution signer John Dickinson, he said, "What innumerable acts of injustice may be committed, and how fatally may the principles of liberty be sapped by a succession of judges utterly independent of the people." And
Genius number 2. Keep going, Patty.
Thomas Jefferson agreed. He said it should be remembered as an axiom of eternal truth in politics that whatever power in any government is independent is absolute all.
You know, Mike, you got to be kidding me, man. There's literally 2 words left in the quote. 2 words left. And, Mike, I still got 10 seconds before we go to break. And you cut off, not just Patty, you cut off Thomas Jefferson, for God's sake. Patty, please hang on. Forgive me. I'm sorry. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. All right, let's go right back to Patty and Drake-it. Patty, my apologies over Mike. He loves that. He loves that control. And, I mean, you know, I've teased him in private about this, Patty. If he was the editor for Shakespeare, and there's Shakespeare now, you know, to be or, and then Mike would come in and say, sorry, we got to go to break. No, sorry, that's it. No, I can't give you another. No, that's it. That's the amount of space I'm giving you. That's all you've got to write your play. You mean you can't give me 2 more words? No, I'm sorry. No more space. So that's Mike. So I apologize. Can you please start over with the Thomas Jefferson quote that Mike cut off 2 words before you were finished? Please, Patty, repeat it for all of us.
As an axiom of eternal truth in politics that whatever power in any government is independent is absolute also. Independence can be trusted nowhere but with the people in mass.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. People in mass. Not just, Hey, Mike, couldn't let that one in. Mike, couldn't let it in. 20 seconds before break, but you couldn't let that one in. No, that's okay, Mike. That's okay. Patty, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Patty, let me ask you point blank. What do you think Trump needs to do? He's clearly now dealing with a judicial insurrection. There's no question. He's dealing with out of control rogue judges. They think they're the president. They are determined now to stop him, to undermine him, frankly, to sabotage and block him at every turn. If you were advising Trump, what would you tell him to do?
overstepping their constitutional authority, I would tell him to ignore them and continue to do what the American people elected him to do.
So ignore and just keep going, correct?
Yes, they don't have the constitutional authority to do anything that they're doing.
Amen. Amen. Patty, please don't be a stranger. Dynamite call. Bob in Woburn. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Thanks for taking my call. I was just going to say the same thing that Patty just said. If he went to these judges, what are they going to do about it?
Well,
in other words, if he did what he wants to do anyway, he said, "Hey, judge, what are they going to do about it?"
Well, Bob, when Joe Biden gave the middle finger to the Supreme Court on the student loans, what did they do? He went, like you. That's what he did. He stuck his tongue out and went. And Bob, what did Chief Justice John Roberts do?
He's another sissy puke. As far as Attorney General goes, what Republican isn't a sissy puke that you're going to get to do the right thing? And I hope they hear me. I hope they call me on the phone. I'll give them my number. They're sissy pukes. And I said that. What are they going to do about my saying that?
Well, Bob, I think most people would agree with you, to be honest. Bob, thank you very, very much for that call. I really, you're dead on. Look, by the way, I think Kristi Noem would have been a much better pick for AG than Pam Bondi. I'm just telling you, Kristi Noem, there's some cojones there. She's not afraid. That woman, there's some spine there. In other words, there's people out there that I think are not afraid to arrest people, to go after people, to challenge the system. Pam Bondi, not so much. Maria in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Maria, and welcome.
Hi, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Maria.
Everybody keeps asking why do Republicans in Congress and the Senate, why do they not do anything? Why do they not stand up? First off, our problem is half of them are Democrats. Secondly, I don't think they care if they win or lose. They get paid the same amount. They get all their time off. And you know what? When they lose, the spotlight's not on them. They can just coast through because they're not expected to do anything. So I really think they don't care, and they like it better when they're on the losing team because that means they do less work.
And you know what? And just to finish what you're saying, because I think you're completely right, Maria. And they can bark, they can talk tough. Jim Jordan can go and send another strongly issued letter, or hold a hearing and stand there and yell and scream and his sound bites. But you're right; they're not expected to do anything because then they're in opposition. And look, Maria, I can just tell you this with 1,000% certainty. The Massachusetts Republican Party is paid to lose. They like to lose. They don't want to win. And when someone comes along like me who says, let's win, let's really take the state back from this Democrat, corrupt liberal regime, they destroy. Then what you notice, and notice how they went after Trump. Okay, I'm not talking just at the state level. Notice how these rhinos will go after an America First conservative in a way that they would never go after a Democrat. They will call me names or take Jeff Deal. Look how they attack Jeff Deal. And by the way, compared now to Maura Healey, can you imagine what it'd be like to have Jeff Deal as our governor? Oh my God. These people should be ashamed of themselves. Those rhinos, and they know who they are, and these liars in the media, and they know who they are, who did everything they could to sabotage Jeff Deal in his race against Maura Healey. All right, but notice they will call Jeff Deal names, they will call me names that they would never call Maura Healey or Andrea Campbell Or you can run down your list, Elizabeth Warren or Ed Markey, or now at the national level, look at all these rhino Republicans. They never called Obama or Joe Biden what they call Trump. And just to give you an example, Merrick Garland, they blessed. Merrick Garland as Attorney General, they all voted for. Trump puts up Matt Gaetz. He's beyond the pale. Oh, you can't support Matt Gaetz, but Merrick Garland's okay. So notice, when it comes to a real conservative, a real Make America Great Again Republican, who truly is going to take on the swamp and the establishment, they go after your throat. But when it's a Democrat, let them win. Give them what they want. And I believe, Maria, it's because they're in on it. In fact, I know they're in on it. As long as you give them a little slice, as long as they get to wet their beak, as they say, as long as they get to put some money in their own pocket, hey, they're happy. Go along to get along. Final word to you, Maria.
Well, you're absolutely right, because losing is easy. Like I said, they're not in the spotlight. They don't have to work because they don't. They don't do anything when they're on the losing side. They don't fight. You know, like you said, I used to like Tim Jordan, but I'm tired of seeing him rolling up his stupid sleeves and say, I'm going to write a letter. What does a letter do? You don't do anything. They don't fight the way Democrats do. But when you win, when you're on the winning team, you have to work to keep that win. And
oh, you're right. No, you're completely right. Look, and you know, they impeached Trump twice over nothing. I remember I had Jim Jordan on the air, and I said, are you planning to impeach Biden? No. So Biden nothing, but Trump twice? The great WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Couple lines are open if you want to jump in. Eric in Plymouth. Thanks for holding, Eric, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure, Eric.
Yeah, all this on the big picture here. I mean, Russia, you know, Putin and Z, they're sitting back here with, you know, the peace and prosperity, all these things that were ongoing while, you know, the Comer clown. You know, the smelly Shelley, all this stuff's going on. And the media should be asking, you know, how can we help with all this? And, you know, they have an unholy alliance with Putin and Z. Now that's just reverse course. And now it's back to war and, you know, death. And so, you know, it's 10 days for Putin to, you know, have peace. Well, and that's where we're at.
Yeah, no, look, Eric, and just to piggyback off of what you're saying, I think the reason why Trump gave him another, 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever, he's basically giving him a little bit more time, is because Putin yesterday, very dramatically, issued his final conditions. According to him, he laid down his final conditions for a peace deal. And on the surface, they look very reasonable. He said, for example, one of the key conditions is a letter from every single Western leader guaranteeing that Ukraine will never, ever be a member of NATO and that Ukraine remains neutral. Okay, well, it seems reasonable to me. Another key condition, that NATO stop its eastward expansion, and in particular, not to take in Moldova and Georgia. Those two countries have asked to become part of NATO. Putin has said no more NATO expansion on our border. Stop with the NATO eastward expansion. Again, I don't think he's asking for the moon. He then said that he wants the sanctions lifted on Russia. Okay, if the war ends, yes, we can lift the sanctions and unfreeze all Russian assets and have them returned to Russia. Again, I don't think that's unreasonable. And then his final condition, and I think maybe this is the one where you have to flesh it out a little bit more. And he said, well, and protect Russian speakers and ethnic Russians in Ukraine. Now, what does protecting ethnic Russians and Russian speakers in Ukraine mean? I think it means we keep Crimea and we keep eastern Ukraine, the areas that they've already annexed, the Donbass. I think that's what he means by that. So, if his final offer is Ukraine out of NATO, no more NATO eastward expansion. Frankly, why do we need Moldova and Georgia anyway in NATO? So, okay, and give us all our assets back, end the sanctions, and we keep eastern Ukraine and Crimea, and you've got yourself a deal. Well, as I said on X last night, I'm going to repeat it now. I'd take the deal. I mean, sure, it's a bitter pill to swallow for the Ukrainians. I get it. But essentially, in other words, Putin is saying, look, we won the war, at least on the eastern front of Ukraine. We won the war, recognize that we won the war, and, get rid of the sanctions, give us back all our money, the assets, and just tell us that Ukraine won't be part of NATO. Stop pushing NATO into our neighborhood. Now, if that's it, as I said, if he's serious, and that's all there is, it's what he's been saying for 3 years. It's what he said even before he launched the war. So if that's the case, if I'm Trump, take the deal. And then you turn around and you tell Zelensky, look, man, here's what you get. He's not getting the capital, Kiev. He's not getting Kharkiv, your second biggest city. He's not getting Odessa. You're still going to have access to the Black Sea. You keep 80% of your country. And you know what's changed? You're going to be able to join the European Union. And you've got the minerals deal with us. So now we're going to be there. We're going to be investing. You're going to have strong financial, economic, political ties to the United States. So if we're there, Russia's never going to touch you again. So you've got us as a stopgap. You're going to be in the European Union, and you keep most of your country. Otherwise, you may lose all of it. So if I'm Ukraine, I'd say take the deal. So there is, if this is, again, if he's serious, we have the basis for a deal. The question now is, A, is Putin really serious? B, will Zelensky accept it? Or does he want to keep fighting and fighting and fighting because he doesn't want the war to end because he's making money off the war? That's why I think Trump said, let's give it another 10 days. We got nothing to lose. Now, I'm praying that Putin is serious and that Trump is working the phones as we speak, saying, you know what? You sign on the dotted line. Zelensky, you sign on the dotted line. I will write a letter, and I'll get Britain, France, Germany, and everyone else to write a letter. Ukraine remains neutral. You do this, the war is over. Bye-bye.